What's up, folks? Welcome back to TacticalTortoise. My name is Trevi, and today I'm going to break down how to install the mods to play Warhammer 40,000 on Tabletop Simulator, as well as some of the basics for getting you set up in the game. Now, the first thing we're going to need is a copy of the game itself, Tabletop Simulator. This usually goes on sale on the Steam Workshop, and you can get it on Steam. I'll drop a link in the video description to the game itself. Once you have the game installed, you need a couple of files from the Steam Workshop. This is a repository of community-generated content and mods for your games. I'm going to drop links to all of the requisite mods in the video description, but you can also find them through this Workshop tab. The first one is called Force.org. This is a repository of basically every model in Warhammer 40k, and a list import tool to help take your army list and put them into Tabletop Simulator. Once you get to the page, either through the Steam Workshop or through the link in the description, go ahead and click subscribe. Assuming you have Tabletop Simulator installed, that will add this mod to your saved files. Now, the next mod we need is called LCT. We can find that either by searching the Steam Workshop, or you can find it in the link in the video description, and this includes a map base. This is where a lot of your terrain will come from, as well as scoring, dice rolling, and other gameplay aids to actually help play the game. We're going to do the exact same thing. We're going to go ahead and click this subscribe button to install this mod on our machine. Now, as a little bit of context for this video, a couple days ago, a lot of these mods were delisted on Steam after DMCA claims from Games Workshop, and that does happen periodically. In case that the Force.org mod goes down, you can get it through a separate downloader here. I will leave a link in the video description for this as well, and this is simply an alternate installation. You can simply click the Get Force.org downloader here, click Run on the downloader, and browse to ensure that you're installing the mod in this folder here. If you're on a PC, this will be in My Games, Tabletop Simulator, in the Saves folder. Either install or reinstall and verify Force.org to ensure that the files are there. That gives you access to all of the Force.org repository without having to go through the Steam Workshop, in case Valve, the operating company of Steam, is forced to remove those mods. From there, we're going to go ahead and go back to Steam and click Play to launch Tabletop Simulator. You don't have to worry about any of these additional modes, just click Play Tabletop Simulator. Once we're inside Tabletop Simulator, we want to start by creating our army list. We can do that using one of a pretty wide selection of third-party army list builders. Unfortunately, the official Warhammer 40k app does not have support for Tabletop Simulator for obvious reasons. However, you can use services like War Organ, ListForge, or New Recruit to build your list online and export it directly into TTS. I recommend New Recruit, which is currently in its beta state for 11th edition army list building and is available entirely for free. Here, we have used a New Recruit to construct a sample army list, and what we're going to do is go over to the corner here and click Export, then click this orange option called Yellowscribe, and click Copy to Keyboard. Yellowscribe is the tool inside Tabletop Simulator that is going to actually import our miniatures into the game and add a bunch of game functions to them. In order to construct this army, we're going to go back into Tabletop Simulator, click a single-player lobby, and click that Force.org mod that we've just downloaded. If you've downloaded it from the Steam Workshop, it will be available here in this Workshop tab, and you can search this directly simply by clicking on that blue button. If you have downloaded it through the installer, it will be available here in your Save and Load folder. Either way, we're going to go ahead and click on that mod and click Load in order to load the repository. This is a pretty dense mod, so it'll take a second to load, but what we're going to do is go over to this Launch Yellowscribe button right here. That code that we just copied from our army list builder, we're going to go ahead and paste into this field and click Submit. Once this goes through its process, which should take 5 to 10 seconds, we'll see that all of the models that we included in that army are going to be showcased here. Now we're going to go along the side here and select whichever one of these options corresponds to the army that we're playing. We're constructing a Space Marine army, so we're going to come over here to the Space Marine section and use this drop-down menu to choose the chapter that we're playing. This will basically be the skin of the models that we're using. A lot of factions have multiple sub-factions or chapters represented in the TTS mods. In this case, we'll go ahead and choose Classic Ultramarines and click Load Models. This is going to lag for a sec because it's loading a ton of models into the lobby, but from there you can see that all of the miniatures for Ultramarines are available. Now, in some cases, this mod won't necessarily update with new releases right away. In the interim, it's usually accessible acceptable to use an appropriate stand-in either from that same faction or a similar faction, as long as it's around the same size, while the mod creators import new miniatures into the game. From here, we're going to use Yellowscribe to associate each of these profiles with one of the miniatures in the mod. We can do that with this very handy search tool here. So, for example, if we want to take a Space Marine Captain, we're going to search for Captain and click Highlight Models to highlight all of the different Space Marine Captain models available to us, and choose from there which one best represents the war gear or character of the unit that we are selecting. We're going to go ahead and click on the profile right here, and then click on the profile that we want to associate with that. This is just a standard Captain on foot, so we're just going to click this Captain, and you'll see his highlighted green. As we mouse over any selected profiles, you can see that they'll highlight green on the screen, so we can make sure that we always have the appropriate profile selected. If it helps you, you can also click and drag these models over to what's called the staging zone. Moving the models around won't change anything, but it can help you differentiate them out from the scrum of available miniatures. From there, we're going to do the same thing with our Assault Intercessor squad, grabbing the Assault Intercessor Sergeant, as well as models to represent our Chainsword Assault Intercessors. We're going to do the same thing for an Eradicator squad. We can search for Eradicators, see that they're located in the back here, and click individually for each miniature to select one of the appropriately armed models to represent that miniature on the table. Last but certainly not least, we have a Redemptor Dreadnought, which we can scroll in the back and find in the back here, and click to associate one of these models that has the appropriate war gear. From there, we're going to click this Create Army button, and you can see that will spawn all of our miniatures. As you mouse over the miniatures, you can see that their tooltip pops up with a handy reference of all of their war gear options, and this process also introduces a number of handy hotkey settings. These are based on the scripting hotkeys that you have set in Tabletop Simulator, which you can find in your controls menu down towards the bottom here. These are preset to the keypad that's on the right-hand side of your keyboard, but if you don't have a keypad, you can simply add a secondary binding to these or change this binding in order to get access to these features. This includes things like the ability to pull up their entire datasheet pulled directly from your army builder, increase or decrease the number of wounds they have available with keypads 2 and 3, and project an aura around them to measure aura effects or a particular distance from each model. This is accessed with key binding 4 and 5 to increase or decrease the size of the aura respectively, and is especially helpful for things like deep strike denial areas where you can't perform ingress moves within 8 inches of a model, so you're easily able to see what is 8 inches away from you. Once you have all of these models saved, go ahead and drag select all of them. If you have a particularly large army that's over, I think, something like 100 models, then you may have to do this in several batches. But if you can, select the entire army, right-click on one of the models, and click Save Object. We're going to save this as Space Marine Army, and that's going to be found in your Saved Objects folder. We can see that's right there as Space Marine Army, and when we get into a lobby, we can spawn this in to use it on the table. In order to start a game of Warhammer 40k, we're going to go ahead and create a multiplayer lobby. We can set a password as well as a maximum number of players, and then click Create Server. This is where the LCT mod comes in that we installed earlier. We're going to click on that and go ahead and click Load. It will take a moment to load into the mod, but once it's loaded in, it will prompt you with a pop-up to select a player color. We're going to go ahead and choose red here, and when you play a 1 versus 1 game, your opponent can come in and select blue. If we were going to invite another person in to play with us, we would use the 1 versus 1 game mode, but right now we're just going to use the solo game mode to make things a little bit easier. Now, all these menus include a selection of pre-built maps that are based on the event companion, but there are also maps available on the Steam Workshop if you want to use your own, and this will automatically generate those maps and missions for you based on the particular force dispositions that you have selected during list building. In this case, our army is priority assets, and we'll say we're playing against a Purge the Foe opponent. From there, you can go down here and select a map filter. These are all different groups of maps that are built by the same people. The ones for my competitive series are called the T5SD maps, so we're going to go ahead and select one of those, and then we're going to go ahead and generate a random single layout. As you can see, this will put up the cards for our respective missions, as well as a recommended layout to play, and all we have to do to load this into the game is click Load Map. This is going to go ahead and get rid of all of those additional accoutrements and spawn all of the terrain on the table for you. In order to load our army in, we're going to go to our saved objects folder, as mentioned before, click the Space Marine army that we want to play, and just click anywhere on the table, usually on your half, in order to spawn the miniatures. From there, these are just physics objects that we can pick up and manipulate around, so when deploying them, for example, we can place them wholly inside our deployment zone. There's a lot of tools inside these map bases to facilitate play, so I'm going to go ahead and go through all of those in a separate video using the LCT table. If you want to find a place to get games of Warhammer 40k or engage in online competition, you can join my Discord server, a link for which I will put in the video description. You may have to copy and paste that into your URL bar because for whatever reason, YouTube videos don't really like Discord links. In any case, you can find games to play there, find people to help you set up Tabletop Simulator if you have any particular questions, as well as find weekly free events that you can participate in. But with that, that is a brief overview on how to install Tabletop Simulator for Warhammer 40,000. Thanks for watching all the way to the end of the video. Let me know down in the comment section if you have any questions. And thanks to everybody who supports Tactical Tortoise, whether that's over on Patreon at patreon.com/tacticaltortoise, YouTube channel members, and Twitch subscribers. All you people are amazing, and I love you.